after a lovely morning of such a beautiful film made by none other than Mr. Girish Kasaravalli, we are all gathered here to dive deeper into the art of cinema. The film we just witnessed was a testament to the power of cinema to inspire and connect us on a deeper level. As the film unfolds, audiences are taken on a compelling journey that explores themes of human nature, relationships, and the impact of societal changes on traditional ways of life. It was a beautiful portrayal of the human experience and a reminder of the universal emotions that unite us all. As we reflect on the film, let us also appreciate the hard work and dedication of the filmmakers who bring these stories to life. From the writers to the actors, from the technicians to the directors, every member of the team plays a vital role in creating a film that can touch our hearts and minds. In a world where we are often divided by our differences, films have the power to bring us together and foster understanding and empathy. They allow us to step into the shoes of others, to see the world from a different perspective, and to appreciate the diversity and richness of human experience. As all of us already know, Mr. Kasaravalli is one of the finest exponents of parallel cinema in India. He has been the recipient of 15 National Film Awards, and his invaluable contributions to Indian cinema have earned him the prestigious Padma Shri in 2011. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to highlight his incredible career. A gold medalist from the Film and Television Institute of India in Pune, Mr. Kasaravalli showed early promise when his diploma film, Avashesh, clinched the National Film Award for Best Short Fiction Film. His first feature film, Ghatashraddha, in 1977, won him his first Golden Lotus and was hailed by critics worldwide. Throughout his career, Mr. Kasaravalli has produced numerous notable works, including Tabarana Kathe in 1986, Thayi Saheba in 1997, Dweepa in 2002, Gulabi Talkies in 2008, and Kanasemba Kudureyaneri in 2010. His films are a reflection of his unique perspective on neorealist cinema, which has been deeply inspired by Akira Kurosawa, Ritwik Ghatak, B.V. Karanth, Satyajit Ray, Federico Fellini, and Michelangelo Antonioni. They have left an indelible mark on the world of cinema. This masterclass is an opportunity for us to learn from a master of the craft and gain a deeper understanding of the art of cinema. Mr. Kasaravalli will share with us his creative process, his approach to storytelling, and the challenges he has faced in bringing his vision to the screen. His wealth of knowledge and experience will be invaluable to aspiring filmmakers, film students, and film enthusiasts. This is a rare chance to learn from one of the greats and gain a deeper appreciation of the role that cinema plays in our culture and society. So without further ado, I invite you to join me in welcoming Mr. Girish Kasaravalli.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, the topic for this one is, in conversation with Bengaluru or in conversation with city, urban spaces. My film do not really talk about those issues. But I was talking to Girish, how do we begin this one? Then he suggested some other alternatives. In the sense, when we say conversation is urban space, we can also talk about other problems, like displacement and kind of conflicts with the nature and all that. And if that is the issue, then probably my film fits very well. Whenever somebody starts planning a film, the film actually he tries to construct the film like a band, which has many strands, not just one strand. The urban-rural conflict could be one of the themes, but there are also other dimensions, Basically, we talk about human issues, and through human relations, we try to understand the other issues that are pertaining to this particular. I very often say all my films talk about social issue, but my stress is not on the politics of the social issue, but how that impacts the day-to-day life of the individual. For me, for that matter, for many filmmakers, many writers, this one is the individual. Even when you are talking about War and Peace, even in War and Peace, though he's talking about the war and this one, his issue is talking about the individual characters. So through individual characters, we construct a story which has many strands, and we try to keep on, adding layers, layer by layer, so that it becomes a kind of a band. So a work of art, a film, can be interpreted that way from many angles. On one level, you have an emotional catharsis, emotional engagement with the characters, and that, of course, for many filmmakers, that is the first basic thread on which he or she tries to build the narrative. Being an Indian filmmaker, my stress is also on this issue. Because in India, you can't construct a film, you can't make a film without the emotional connect with the audience. It is possible in, say, in European countries, where they don't really care much for the emotional connect. They look for ideas. So, in many European films, through ideas, they build a narrative. But in India, we try to build a narrative through human relations, through emotions, and that emotion and the human relation in turn reflect upon the various other facets of the society. Among them, one is the social concerns, the other is the political concerns, philosophical concerns. I would say a film which purely connects with the viewer, purely on emotional connect, is not a very great experience. It can't be a long, A film that transcends this level is a better film. How does it transcend? It goes beyond emotions and then talks about social references. So that makes it a slightly better film. Instead of one dimension, purely emotional dimension, we have added one more dimension, which is political, social dimension. Depending on the perspective or the insight of the filmmaker, it can also gain political insights also. Even if you are talking about husband and wife relationships, the filmmaker can bring out subtle references to political issues, man and woman relationship, gender issues, domestic equality in the domestic space. So it gains a kind of a political issue. So it takes the film one step higher. Then, if the filmmaker has a better vision, then he tries to lift this to a kind of a a spiritual or philosophical experience. So that film takes further up, it lifts the film further up. So that way, a good film is always constructed like a band, wherein on one level it works on the emotional level, on the other level it works on socio-political issues, and then another level philosophical and spiritual issues. So a film that deals with this kind of thing, I would say, is a very viewing that is a very satisfying experience. A film that caters only to our emotions, you still experience, but it's not a profound experience. A film that lifts the emotions to various other levels, social, political, philosophical, spiritual, transcendental, I would say, that is a better film. So whenever I sit down to write the script, I keep this in mind and tries to see where I can lift the film from the banal emotional plane. So when you say emotional plane, if one is talking purely on plot, then it's, he is only targeting the emotional plane. One of my objects to many of the mainstream cinema is that they don't go beyond the emotional plane. So whilst writing the script, so I try to bring in other elements and keep on working on it, so that all these elements should get into the narrative very organically, not forced. It should come in such a way that all these elements should not look imposed. It should look evolving organically. So this novel, this is based on a novel, a Kannada novella by Na D'Souza. It's a Kannada novel. It's a novel of about 89 pages or so. I think it's available in English also now. It's called Dweepa, the island. When I decided to make a film based on this, I thought the film should reach other levels also. The original novel is about this particular family not getting the compensation. I said, I already made a film called Tabarana Kathe, which is about this issue. So I said, I am not interested in this issue any longer. But for writer, it was very important, because writer Na D'Souza was working in the PWD department as an officer, and his job was to settle these compensation issues too. That was the time when two dams were being constructed in Sharavati, Hirebhaskara, and then what is the second one? So he was in charge of settling the issues. So he had heard a lot of stories, and many of his stories deal with compensation. When I sit down to write this one, I said it should not be a film about compensation or displacement. Displacement is one of the major problems. But the film should talk about submersion. So when a dam is built, or when one important a project comes up, two things happen simultaneously. One is displacement, the other is submersion. Submersion, not geographical submersion. I am not interested in geographical submersion. I won't say I am not interested. I am interested, but I don't want the film to get stuck at that level. So when I say submersion, I started working, what are the other areas of submersion? Geographical submersion is one. That village is submerged. But is that all? No. There are other issues. So I made this couple, the family, the old man and his son, as a ritual performer. In the original novel, he is a Brahmin priest. I said, if a Brahmin priest is displaced, even if he is displaced to Bangalore, he would find job, isn't he? He can still go and do puja somewhere, or offer his this one to other. He can perform marriages. He can do whatever it is. But if a cultural activity is displaced, what do you do? He's a Nema, Bhuta worshipper. If he is displaced, what would happen to his life? If he shifted to Bangalore, if he shifted to Hubli, if he shifted to Mumbai, you might give him the financial assistance. But what would happen to this culture? Wouldn't that get submerged? So let us bring in that element. Then submersion. What happens when in a family, a person is displaced? You give them monetary compensation. Some people who are good at business, they might go and set up a shop somewhere. But there are some people who are very proud of their profession. What would happen to them? They would develop a kind of an inferiority complex. How are you going to compensate that? No amount of money can compensate that. It happens on many occasions. If a villager is sent to Delhi, is given a job in, say, Bombay, in a metropolitan city like Bombay, the man immediately develops a kind of a complex. How are you going to compensate that? So that was my second question. One is purely on the cultural level. The second is purely on the individual level. So you can't judge everything by their yardstick. There is a dialogue also to that effect. So how are you going to judge my pride within code? I had a place in the village before submersion. How are you going to compensate for that pride? Because they were respected. Because they are performers. And whenever they say Naima, people believed that. So they were respected. People visited them, consulted them. So the moment you shift them to other place, they develop a kind of a complex. What right do I have, or a state has, to impose this kind of a problem on them? These are all philosophical questions. I don't think I have an answer. I don't think anybody can have the answer. But we should be aware of this. When Gandhi said, why should people come to our cities looking for a job? He was not talking about physical this one. It was more of a philosophical question. Why should people from Bihar come to Mumbai or to Kerala looking for a job? When you oppose that, we are not opposing the transition or the workforce at all. What we are opposing is that the inequality in the social structure itself. If a person in Bihar, why does he come to Kerala, to a state where the language is different, nature of people is different, food habits are different, topography is different? Why would he come here? Why would he and his family? Because they get better job here. They get a job, they get better salary. When Gandhi made this statement, he's questioning this inequality. Why don't you create the job there, not here? So that these people can get absorbed in that society. So it's a philosophical question. It's not a social question. So we try to understand a philosophical question through a social. No, that's not. So I try to address this also in the film. What right do I have as a city man, or as a man who has who get all the privileges, who takes advantage of all the privileges are accorded? What right do I have to impose this kind of condition to that particular family? So that's a bigger question. So by constructing that way, I am asking many questions. One is purely on the husband and wife relationship. The second is on the social relationship, because the people had to migrate to cities. Their job is lost. Third is their geographical entity is lost, submerged. Fourth is their esteem is lost. Cultural roots are lost. See, in the in their yardstick, the yardstick set by government, nobody asks about this kind of cultural roots. It's a very important thing for me as an artist. What if we create a society which has lost all its traditional roots, which has lost all its cultural roots, which has lost this association with its own native language? It's a question to be, it is a thing to be questioned often. Is that right? It's not, if you change the language, say for example, if you start, now the present government is saying that Hindi should become the national language, everybody should understand language. It's not merely language. It's much more deeper than language, So when we understand that, then we start opposing that. Don't impose another language on the people. That's the kind of a colonization of the mind which the colonizers did for 300 years. But now, in the name of nationhood, we are trying to to impose that in a different way. So that also to be opposed. So that also you bring in this film. So by the time you complete the film, it has become a kind of a multi-layered construction. It's not a single layered construction. It is not what happens to Nagi that is important. You are also addressing other questions. And that was my intention while making the film. The second major change that I made was to bring Krishna into. Krishna is there in the original novel also. But the relationship between Nagi and Krishna is like a husband, this is a triangle relationship. Krishna, Ganapa and Nagi. I said, I'm not interested in that. We should try to bring a new meaning into it. Because it's not merely husband and a woman getting attracted to a boy. Why does she get attracted? It's not a sexual attraction. I'm trying to avoid that angle at all. It's a kind of that she develops a feeling that this man is more capable than her own husband. And because of that feeling, her Ganapa starts developing a kind of inferiority complex. He is not even willing to go and look for, set fire around the houses so that the tiger won't enter. What is the answer for that? Why does it happen? Lohia, in one of his writings, he says, there are three things which creates inferiority complex in the society. One, he says, the caste. The moment you are from an upper caste, the people from the other caste believe that they are capable. He questions this. How can you say they are capable? They are capable. But the mere caste structure itself makes one person more eligible. Not makes one person, no, makes a person believe that he is capable than the other. So first is caste, he says. The second is, he says, class. Very often people think people who are moneyed have a better hold, better access to knowledge. which again should be questioned. Third, he talks about the language. He says the moment you have English, moment one can speak fluently in English, the other person who can't speak English thinks that he is inferior. So language has a politics here. You agree with me? So Lohia says he questioned that also. Just after my pharmacy, briefly, for about 3 months, I went back to my village and my brother was sick. So I decided to look after the farming. And that was the harvest season. So I went back to my village and started telling them how to do the harvesting and all that. And the people who have been practicing for ages, they immediately started following my instructions. And I was very confident because I had read books. So in books it has said blah, 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 and these things. So I would read a sentence and then try to implement that. And that harvest was a disaster. Then I questioned, why did they listen to me? That's because I have a college degree. They thought because I am a graduate, because I have read books, they think my knowledge is superior to their knowledge. In real, that was not true. Because they had that traditional insight into the cultivation, methods of cultivation. So they knew when to sow, when to crop, when to harvest, after harvesting what should be done. So I had a better knowledge about the tractor, the cars, the scooters and things like that. But I didn't have a better knowledge about harvesting. But they trusted me and our whole, this one went fat. So Lohia says these are the 3 elements. Added to third, you can add one more thing, that is urban-rural divide. The moment a man comes from city to a village, the moment one goes to a city, to a village from the city, the villager seems to think that this man is better equipped, is more knowledgeable. So you don't have to tell him anything. Very dress, your very attitude, your body language can make the person feel that he is not competent enough to handle things. So I said, this insight I should utilize in characterizing Krishna. Krishna keeps on posing that he is better equipped, better capable than Ganapa. But actually it is Ganapa who has the knowledge, who has the expertise. But when he sees this man, he starts developing a kind of a insecurity, complex. So that's why I keep saying the film is not about displacement. The film is about submersion. So when a dam is constructed, 2 things happen simultaneously, displacement and submersion. My stress is more on submersion than the displacement. Displacement is a problem, somehow can be compensated. But how are you going to compensate for the submersion? Submersion of your self-esteem, submersion of your own persona, your tradition, your culture, your language. How are we going to compensate that? So this is actually my approach. In fact, this idea came to me from one small essay written by Dr. U.R. Ananthamurthy. There's a film called Nanuk of the North. I don't know how many of you have seen. Yeah. It was a silent film, 1926-27. Robert Flaherty was the filmmaker. He's not a filmmaker basically. He is sent by the firm to explore possibility of setting, their establishment at various places. So once he was sent to the pole, northern pole. There he sees there is an Eskimo family. He records their day-to-day. It's a documentary film. It's not purely documentary, but it's using documentary material, he constructs a narrative film. He records everything. Say, what are the requirements? The food. What is the food for them? Is the eel. How does he do the hunting? He knows how to do the hunting. He takes a long spear and goes for a hunting, and then he knows how to kill the eel, brings it, and then eat it. The food is, this one is salt. Then house. He knows how to build a house with igloo, with ice cubes. So the housing is salt. Then what? Cloth. The warm cloth, to keep themselves warm. So he goes and, brings the animal skin, constructs cloths. So that is salt. So what else do you need? So Nanuk knows how to keep his family happy. Anantmurti then suggests, you introduce a white man with a gun, then immediately this man thinks that he is incapable of running his household. He says, I don't have the expertise, whereas that white man has the expertise. You don't have to do anything. The introduction of a person is enough to create the tension. Because the skin color, because of the gun. How did we lose our freedom? This one? Because we didn't have rifle. We only had, all the Indian kings and we had elephants, horses, whereas the conquerors had guns. Finished. So this I wanted to bring that insight into the film. Then I said, at no point of time, the film should reflect that there is a kind of a triangle relationship between these two. Triangle relation, as you see in most of the film, is because of the sexual relationship, sexual attraction. I said, let us avoid that. It should be a power struggle. Who is trying to be number one? Krishna or Ganapa? Krishna doesn't want Nagi to go with him, run away with him, or Nagi doesn't want to run away with Krishna. But Krishna wants to give her the impression that he is capable than these two people, father and the son. And what does he do? He goes and brings the workers from outside, paying exorbitant fees, which he is not capable, which Ganapa is not in a position to pay. So there, I am trying to hint that this man he doesn't take into consideration the economic situation of the society at all. Economic situation of the family at all. So then where is the question of efficiency? Does that efficiency mean anything? No. So such kind of questions I try to bring into the film. And then, of course, I am from Malnad area. You all know Agumbe is the second highest rain falling place in India, next to Chirapunji. I live in a village near Agumbe. My village is quite close to Agumbe. During my childhood, we had rains from June till November end, December sometimes. So, rain was my companion right through. In Malnad villages, you don't, the houses are spread far and wide. So, after the college, after the school, once we get into the house, if you want to talk to another person, you'll have to walk few kilometers to find the next house. So you don't walk at all, you shut yourself up in the house. So constant companion used to be rain and all the creatures. So in all popular genre films, rain is very romantic. They always glamorized, rain, and it's used as a backdrop for song picturization and fight sequences. I said, I don't want to use the rain that way. Rain forms a part of this life, as it happened in my life, How do I do that? I told them there are 4 characters. Ganapa, his father, Nagi, and Krishna. The rain should be the 5th character. Construct the film in such a way that rain becomes the character. So when I make the rain a character, I can't bring only one facet of the character. All characters, we all have 2 characters, no? Even the rain should have 2-dimensional binaries. It could be romantic, it could be frightening. So bring that element into the film. So when you say rain, what is the element that you care for in the rain is the water. I said, it's a beautiful metaphor for the film. Because what does water indicate? Water is one element which doesn't lose its color, smell, taste. You put it in the glass, it takes the shape of the glass. You put it in a bowl, it takes the shape of the bowl. Has the color changed? Has the taste changed? Has its character changed? Nothing. So that is the strength of character. So why not we use it as a metaphor in the film? I said, it's a beautiful element to be used in the film. Then I started equating characters with these ideas, these insights. For me, Nagi is water. You do whatever, come what may. Nagi doesn't change her spirit. Why doesn't she change her spirit? That's because there are 3 characters, 3 set of characters, and each one of them have their own dharma, looking at life. Dugaja and his son, Ganapa, they are so, burdened. For them, the past is all that important. When you say Bhuta, Bhuta means the spirit as well as the past. This man, Dugaja, he thinks, his past can save him. Keeps on harping about it. He says, I don't think my house is going to be submerged because we have Bhuta with us to protect us. But what is this Bhuta? Can our past protect us? It can't. But they firmly believe that. Because he is Bhuta worshipper. Then there is this Krishna. What does Krishna signify? Krishna comes from a city, the future. He comes to this shore, this side of the river, and tries to give them the impression that life beyond the river is very beautiful. But what is he? He himself is a failure in that village. He has come here to escape from that humiliation. But what is he doing here? He is trying to impress Nagi and Ganapa, saying that he is very successful. Thus, his attraction for future is again not on a firm ground. So in that sense, Krishna represents future. What about Nagi? Nagi is one person who is neither burdened by the past, not enamored by the future. For her, today, this moment is more important. In that sense, she is existentialist. And what else can be a better metaphor than the water? Right? So Nagi, even when the adversaries are very high, she doesn't lose confidence. She doesn't go and cover herself as sun, She is trying to make her life as pleasant as possible. And that is for me more important than attraction of the future or the past. How to make my present without making any compromises is my. That's how Nagi becomes the central character for me. Central thematic presence right through the film. Her thematic presence is what impresses me much. So, what happens in the end? When there is a heavy downpour, when there is this fear that house is going to be, the dam is going to overflow and then house is going to get submerged, she somehow struggles to keep the house intact. She sees to it that the tiger doesn't come in near the house and the water doesn't get clogged. So, but what happens later? Next day, the dam is overflowing, which is actually water. Her enthusiasm is overflowing. But her husband is not in a position to accept that. He says, you have not done anything. It's the Bhuta which has done everything. So what is the... There I bring in the gender politics. It is Nagi who has saved the house, but the ego of the person, husband, isn't willing to accept that. And she sits down. For me, she is Dweepa now. Dweepa is island. So the film starts with a village which gets submerged. So then I condense the space to house, from broader spatial to bring it down to house. House gets submerged, then it becomes family. Then the father gets drowned, then it becomes husband and wife. Then husband also deserts her, so she becomes the lone figure. She is Dweepa. The film, in that sense, constructed like a pyramid. What is it? A pyramid upside down. It starts with a broad base comes down to Nagi. So while constructing the film, while writing the script, one has to think in terms of structure also, in terms of details also, in terms of technique also.
How does an audience how do you make the audience educated enough to kind of, as you're doing the film, because you are the performers and masters, okay? So how does directors manage to pull up the audience in a way? Do you deliberately suppress the emotion or use symbolism like these metaphors and stuff suggestively? How does one do it through visual media?
See, there's a problem with film viewing itself. Christian Mates, an important film theoretician, makes one statement: it's easy to watch a film, experience a film, but difficult to explain it. That's because while we are watching the film, film attacks you from all corners. Ear, eyes, and even experience, emotions. So it's easy to experience. But how to get detached from that? You need a kind of a training. Unfortunately, it's not happening in India in this one because we don't have visual education in India. We don't have visual education in our primary education. See, when you pick up the first standard book, there will be a poem. The teacher will explain what to expect from a poem. There will be a story, what to expect. But do we ever have how to explain a painting, how to see a painting? Do we ever have bothered to understand how to experience a play, a film? No. We are so blind to things. If you show two colors and tell them is it compatible or not, we won't be able to say. First thing, everything is. In Manipal, there is a person called Vijayanath Chennai who has collected all the artifacts from all over and built a beautiful, what is it called? Heritage village. Hastashilpa and Heritage village. He always used to say one thing: if there's a bad poem, it doesn't affect us much. Because if you don't read it, then you won't get affected. If there's a bad painting, it won't affect us much. Because those who don't watch that painting do not get affected at all. But if you have a bad architecture, he says one should be very careful about it, because whether you intended or not, every day you keep on watching that bad architecture, bad building. If there are 10 such buildings, then you think that is normal. One which is slightly different, you think that is abnormal. That's because we don't have the education. That applies to visual arts also. That applies even more so to cinema. So very often I keep asking them, why do you tell me what was it about? They'll tell you the story. Tell me the story. I said, I'm not interested in telling a story. Tell me what is it about. That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you the story. I said, story is not cinema. I don't go to a film to find out what is the story is all about. I said, if A meets B, or if the B ditches A, I said, why should I be bothered? Tell me what is behind or what is beyond the plot. But we all go to film just to see the plot. But plot is not cinema. Cinema is something more than plot. That's why I told you, plot is one surface, one band. The cinema unfolds on many other levels. How do we do it? I don't know, unless we have a kind of a sensitizing students to visual arts, to performing arts. It's very difficult.
Also then, why are those visual artists to be of that caliber
No, I tell you, sometimes, it's very disturbing, very depressing. Somebody once, I made a film called Nayanerudu, based on a short novel by S.L. Bhairappa. One person came to me, and lady came to me and said, Nayanerudu. Oh, I liked the film very much. So I was very happy when I said, why did you like the film? She said, there is a scene wherein they make the vermicelli, this shavige. I said, my grandmother used to do it and now we don't see it. That's why it's there in the film, so I like the film. I said, forget it, that's not my film. My film is not about how to make shavige. My film is something else. This is, where you miss the wood for the forest for the wood. You very often ask, ask anyone, why did you like the film? Oh, that actor was fantastic. I like that actor very much. I said, I am not asking you about the actor. I am asking about the film. He said, no, that's what I am saying. I said, I like the actor. I said, the actor is not film. Film is not plot. Film is not actor. Film is not songs. Film is vision. Haven't you heard this? Oh, I like the film very much because all the songs were very good. The problem with film viewing is that somewhere we think if you see the film once, it's enough. But you don't do that with poetry. If you don't understand the poetry, you read it again. If you don't get the novel or the short story, you read it again. But film, you say, no, it didn't communicate with me. Okay, so go and see it again. You'll understand it. Because what happens, even after all these years, when I see the film for the first time, I get carried away by the emotions. I don't notice other things. But in the second viewing, successive viewings, you forget the story. You don't know what, you are not carried away, your attention is not to see what happens next. The real problem with the film construction is that somewhere, the audience come to the film to watch what happens next. But what happens next is not the important thing. What happens now is the important thing. Yeah.
So in the movie, after the death of the father, we see that Mali breaks down and then stops talking to Krishna. And she starts ignoring him and eventually asks him to leave. So, what was the thought process of Mali behind that? Was it because the relationship with Grandpa was being strained by her talking to Krishna? Or was it some other?
No, in fact, what I wanted to convey was, suddenly Nagi realizes that Ganapa Dugacha got drowned because of her. Why does Dugaja go and offer prayers? Why does he pray that let the downpour be there and the dam get washed away? Why does he do that? Because she thinks that Dugaja has realized that something is brewing in between, in the family. Tension is brewing up. So that's why she decides, if she doesn't say my relationship with Krishna. He says, if I am talking to Krishna, if that irritates you, let me not talk to him. Is that what you want? I'll do that. I can leave like that. What is the exact sentence? Hago nang badkak baratte anta kanutte. I think that must be the. I can leave even without speaking to people. You must understand this, because it's an island. There are only 3 people. And how can she share her feelings? With whom she can, because with father-in-law she can't share her emotions. It's only with Ganapa. And Ganapa somehow is little, in the film, right through the film, he's little cold and detached. So when Krishna appears, because of his jovial nature, she finds somebody with whom she can share her experience. So it's not love relationship. Somebody longing to speak to, longing to share experiences, and Krishna is one such person. But there's something which other two do not understand. So it's all depends upon the exposure. Say today's film goers, some section of the film audience are better exposed to world cinema. So their understanding of cinema is far superior compared to the previous generation people. Because you see, just imagine, I returned from FTII in 75. And I started one film school here, film society here. Then, 100 people, 50 people used to come watch films. In a state which has something, that time we had about 5 crore people. Imagine 50 people, what, it's not even minuscule, it's ignorable, But today, in fact, 80s, 90s itself, everybody, all the major classics were available on footpath. They would buy DVDs and watch films. Today you speak to anybody who is interested in cinema, they would know about Iranian cinema, they would know about Kurosawa, they would know about, say, Bergman, Satyajit Ray. Forget about those days. The first film I screened in my film society was Pathar Panchali. They didn't know about Ray at all. And that day something happened, and the projector, the sound, the bulb was fused. So I told him, where is the sound? The projectionists tell me, sir, it's a silent film, sir. See, that much of knowledge we had. That was our knowledge of cinema. Now today you won't ask this question. You don't find people saying that kind of remarks. Old as it has replaced the old is a kind of a tenet which we have said it very often. I was not interested in that at all. And also telling a story in 2007 about women stepping out of the house, I found it's irrelevant. But the thing that was being discussed that in 2000 was basically the politics of imaging itself. That was something which was discussed very heavily. How are we, what we are presenting? What we are presenting is not really the fact. It's only my attempt to make you believe that this is fact. So when you realize that, then you know even the photography is not a statement without any politics. There is a politics even behind that. And that is being discussed very heavily in 2000 onwards. What is the politics? Are we manufacturing the consent through using images? If that is so, then that's not right. So then they said we should make a kind of a presentation wherein the images do not manipulate the viewer. That's one of the reasons why I used documentary style reportage. In all the narrative films, what we do, we try to give a kind of a picture This is X, this is Y, with all defined thing. Let's not do that.
Even the audience, when he watches the film, will juxtapose different kinds of things, and he was in that.
No, that is exactly the argument. Give the freedom to the viewer. You don't force them to interpret the way. See, in cinema aesthetics, in 1920s, Eisenstein formulated one kind of story, one kind of aesthetics, which are basically juxtaposition of images based on your political decisions, so that in the juxtaposition itself, you put shot 1, shot 2, and create the third image. In 60s itself, that argument was debased. They said, no, you give the freedom to the audience, viewer. Why are you manipulating them? So it became more pronounced in 2000. So I was addressing that. I wasn't interested in telling the new thing came and the old thing replaced. No, that I am not interested. I am trying to tell them how the visual images, like the television in that case, how it affects the image. The television is it's an industry which is image making, and that affects our lives. So I am trying to understand that. So in that sense, Vaidai couldn't have written this one because she is a writer. I am a man working in the visual field. So that was my concern. So Netru character is not there in the short story. But in the film, Netru becomes an important element. She runs away. She finds a kind of a solace in television serials. And there again, there is a contradiction there itself. We are very critical of, what is it called, soap operas. Even in Tabarana Kathe, not so much worried about Tabara or not getting pension. Evident in Thayi Saheba, wherein the Thayi Saheba is a better example, wherein the.
Thank you, sir. It has been a rare privilege to learn from one of the true masters of the art of filmmaking. Throughout the masterclass, Mr. Kasaravalli shared with us his experiences and insights, providing us with a unique glimpse into the creative process of a great filmmaker. As sir said, a great film is one that not only caters to our emotions, but also takes them to the next level. What struck me most about Mr. Kasaravalli's approach to filmmaking was his commitment to authenticity and his willingness to embrace complexity. His work speaks to the complexities of the human experience, and his films are a testament to the power of cinema to move and inspire us. As we leave this masterclass, I encourage you all to take the lessons and insights that Mr. Kasaravalli has shared with us and to apply them to your own creative endeavors. Whether you are a filmmaker, a film student, or simply a lover of cinema, I believe that this masterclass has provided us all with a deeper understanding and appreciation for the art of filmmaking. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Mr. Kasaravalli for his generosity in sharing his knowledge and expertise with us, and to all of you for your participation and engagement in this masterclass. Now I request Professor Neeta Inamdar to present a memento as a token of gratitude and appreciation. Lastly, I would like to thank our sponsors, Manipal Universal Press, Bookchore, Gurbanji, and 86.